As a child, I have always been fascinated by film and TV. I would be sure to find out what types of animation style a company would use, or the latest trailer to get me hyped up for a release. And no show could encapsulate my childhood more than the gritty, yet charming, 2003. In 2001, the company Rainbow Studio made a pilot for a potential Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, which would be completely CGI. They released a 5-minute short of the program and received a bunch of negative reception. The studio then had no other choice but to cancel the project. Fast track, 15 months, and with 4Kids acquiring the rights to make the second animated TV show, with one of the original creators of the comic, Peter Laird, helming the project, it was all but certain to come out. The show had an incredible 7 seasons, culminating in a 157-episode saga. Obviously, that would be too hard to cover in one single 10-minute review, so today I'll be looking at just the first season. So to accurately assess why this is such a prolific series, we must look at the characters, the adaptation, and the plot. As far as characters go, the writers have a pretty good voice for the 4 turtles and the people that they surround themselves with. The dialogue is often quick-paced, using sharp exposition with a nice joke thrown in at the end. Throughout the 4Kids run on TMNT, it was clear that Leonardo was the favourite of the 4 turtles, with Michelangelo coming in at a not-too-distant second, while Donatello and Raphael unfortunately were put on the back burner, getting standalone episodes around once a season. So let's take a look at each turtle, and I'll be referring to who they are, as well as what they must overcome as the seasons progress. Leonardo is the strong-willed, often at times quick-tempered turtle who needs to learn to relax, while at the same time learn what it means to be a good leader, and to understand that he cannot always save everybody. He believes that there's good in everyone, however, as the series progresses, his views become more cynical, but I'm getting too far ahead of myself. Next is Raphael, who is my personal favourite turtle. Him and Leo share a lot in common, with their anger getting in the way of their judgment, but Raph at times nearly hurting his brothers. The part in which they differ is the idea of family. Raphael must come to terms with his sensitivity and his constant fear to never being good enough to be a part of the team, which to me is the most real and compelling story. Following that, Donatello is the smart turtle, who builds all the tech that the turtles use throughout the series, such as the shell cell or the tumbler. Donnie struggles to connect with people as he is often too smart, and while he's not bad at making conversations, ultimately he becomes consumed in his work. Finally, the last turtle is Michelangelo. He is the comic relief of the group and has a hard time taking basic conversations seriously, as he is often distracted or uninterested. However, when push comes to shove, he does transform into one of the best fighters somebody could ask for. The real strength of the show is when all 4 turtles are together. The writers understand the dynamic of each pairing or each team member of the group and play to the strengths of the characters. Their banter comes off natural, as if they were really a family, and they know when to make the jokes but also when to get serious. Moving on from the characters, we have the plot of the first season. The main story follows the 4 turtles relocating in New York and fighting against the Foot, while the Shredder continues to make allies. They are both going after the Sword of Tengu, which has mystical abilities. After that, the Shredder tries recruiting Leonardo, which causes Splinter to drop a water tank on him. The Shredder gets pretty mad at that, and ambushes Leonardo, throwing him in a window, then blowing up April's house. The turtles travel through the woods to stay at Casey's farm and return to fight the Shredder one last time. After the turtles face him, Splinter goes missing and the turtles go on a manhunt for the last few episodes. It's a wild ride full of highs and lows, triumphs and defeats. This season honestly plays it pretty straight compared to the latest seasons and the ideas, which is a refreshing change of pace. If you're thinking of watching the season, but just the episodes that you need to get the full story, the episodes are Things Change, A Better Mousetrap, Attack of the Mouses, Meet Casey Jones, The Way of Invisibility, The Shredder Strikes Back, Return to New York, and Search for Splinter. These episodes are some of the strongest and also compelling stories, not in just action but as well in character development. But if you want a story that focuses on each turtle individually, I would recommend for Leonardo, Tales of Leo, for Raphael, Lone Cub and Raph, for Michelangelo, the unconvincing Turtle Titan, and for Donatello, the King. Finally, we have come to the adaptation of the Turtles. For this review, I'll be looking at what they adapted from the original comics, the live-action movies, and the 1987 TV show. In terms of what they took from the original show and brought to the 2003 series, it's the love of pizza from Michelangelo. Even though it isn't as highlighted as much in this show, but the coloured bandanas, the jokes, and basic traits from each of the theme songs being Leonardo leads, Donatello being the smart one, Raphael having a temper, and Mikey being a party animal and a comic relief. They don't honestly borrow too much from the original set of movies, as the similarities originate back to the original comics. The Turtles rely heavily on the original comic run. The search for Splinter is one of the first things that happens, as well as the final fight with Shredder, and the way they defeat him. The return to New York storyline and the apartment fight also feels straight out of the comics, as well as the one-shot Raphael, which was a direct adaptation for the episode Meet Casey Jones. Another neat thing they did was take the direct lines of dialogue and use them in the show. For instance, the opening scene is actually the opening page of the comic series.
My name is Leonardo, and right now my brothers and I are in a mess of trouble. Our backs are up against the wall in some trash-strewn alley, cornered by the toughest street gang on the east side.
Look at the freaks! What's with the dweeby costume? This ain't Halloween.
You're going down, freaks! Nobody messes with the purple dragons, especially wearing stupid turtle costumes. He's wrong. We're not wearing costumes.
It's clear that the people behind this show really loved the source material and wanted to pull and reinvent some of the classic tropes from the original run. Overall, I would have to say, as a Turtles fan, you should give this a watch. Not only is it an easy show to kick back and have some mindless action, but its deep and well thought out characters, which have real struggles and flaws, addressed in the first season. The villains present a real sense of threat, and the characters aren't invincible. Finally, the show knows when it can have a laugh and when it needs to knuckle down and get going. So check it out.
In other words, let's get at it!